Recurring anxiety might be called your old unhelpful friend because it tries desperately to assist you. It does this by rallying you up so you are ready to either fight, freeze, or run. The confusion around this stems from the fact that your anxiety comes from a place of limited understanding about what exactly triggered it. And this makes it become a giant pain for you, since most of the time it's just agitated by your unfounded fears of the future. So this is how it works. The more primitive part of your brain where anxiety stems from, especially the amygdala, the part that detects the threats, and the hypothalamus that links the fear, just feels what you feel, and you might even say believes what you believe. So if you are easily triggered into a fearful place, like when it isn't based on your need for immediate safety, your brain and nervous system feel your fear, and then they get to work acting like the feelings need to be dealt with now. The system does not distinguish between life-threatening immediate issues and your future fears. And since now is all the structure knows, you are left dealing with your shaky feeling body as well as your spinning thoughts as repercussions of this primitive process. So if you are tired of dealing with unreasonable anxiety, this is a very big question to ask yourself. How should I deal with something that is only hypothetical? Meaning you aren't actually dealing with it right now because it only relates to your future. If your answer is to worry about it, you will find yourself falling into an endless loop of anxiety that doesn't seem to have an end. That is because mechanically speaking, worry does not work. You could say, since worry isn't an intelligent part of our processes, it's a time to evolve past it. You might think that what that primitive part of the brain is trying to do hurts rather than helps, but you are the one feeding it the belief. When you believe in worry as a helpful tool, consciously or unconsciously, because on some level you believe it works or you wouldn't be using it, and you start to see that you can only actually deal with now. You notice that means now is where your focus needs to be, and if you are going to deal with hypotheticals, you have to learn to envision best case scenarios. If you do the opposite and assume the worst, your system is going to feel the terror as if it is really happening right now. You will feel terrible, and rightly so, because the bad feeling emotion is actually a signal to tell you that you are off track at this moment. And guess what? You want to know that kind of information. Just like if you got too close to a fire and your body knew to back off from it to stay safe, you too need to pull off of the hypothetical future fears when they make you feel bad. To deepen this understanding, I'm going to ask you to stop right now and get hyper-focused on what I'm about to say. When you worry and think of worst-case scenarios, it doesn't make you feel bad because it's all true, meaning they're all going to happen. Actually, you feel bad because you're using your focus to feel into something that you would hate. So your undesirable emotions are gifts to you. They are the guide to you to pull off that crappy feeling thing you just focused on. This actually indicates that you don't feel bad because your future fear is true. You feel bad because in that moment you are thinking trashy, negative things inside your head. So maybe you might even say, yay for this brain system because it's clearly trying to help you. Now, just knowing this is not going to make you stop worrying overnight, and don't confuse worry with taking clear action in your life. You will still have to deal with life situations and challenges. So let's look at 4 things you can do to slow down and eventually stop your debilitating anxiety and worry. Number 1, make change into a very dynamic daily process. Research has shown that these autopilot fears and worries we have need to be actively unlearned and not just passively forgotten. That means you will need to energetically go over these principles in your mind. Maybe even writing about it and speaking to yourself out loud will assist you. Doing this can help build the neural networks in your brain that shift the belief that worry works. Moving on to tip number 2, when you feel activated by fears for your future, notice it and tell yourself it's totally okay. This second step is a lot about being kind to yourself wherever you're at. This is actually a really hard step for many people because we tend to lean towards hyperaction or its opposite, apathy, as well as self-judgment to facilitate change in ourselves. I would call this a habit and a misunderstanding that mostly got conditioned into us. By just stopping and noticing that you are worrying, helps because it lets you settle your energy and your beliefs into a new place. Know this, if you are stuck in your head about fixing your worry and anxiety, you won't be in a place of shifting. So practice becoming the observer of you and your habits. You may notice you are just worrying about anxiety and judging yourself for where you're at. That's not a problem. Just notice, slow things down, breathe, and notice these patterns that are trying to live through you. Now let's get to number 3, which is actively starting to direct yourself towards where you're going. Tell yourself that you will be learning to stop abandoning yourself for the lie that worry works. You might say, over time, I will stop going into a garbage can of speculative fears. I will start to use my adverse feeling emotions as useful information and pull off the fear as best I can. By actively directing yourself to involve your brain's prefrontal cortex to help you lower your fear responses, it in turn helps you to adjust your amygdala's reaction. Now let's get to number 4. Do your best to catch the fear thoughts and your stressed feeling body early. The earlier you notice and then eventually direct yourself purposefully, the sooner you will shift the momentum of worry out of your life. Now to summarize, when your anxiety mind takes over and senses, yikes, trouble is here right now, you can start to quickly jump in and quickly say, I am not being left feeling terrified and paralyzed by fear. I'm stopping this before it gets carried away. Teaching your mind and body your new standards around worry and fear can take some time, but it's so very worth the effort. Thanks a lot for listening today. Take care, and I'll see you next time.